Okay, so this is some feedback about your second group report. So the first assessment on this module on metabolism and nutrition and sport exercise is to write a group report on the topics, your athletes' details you've been given already. The second element is based on your engagement and your attendance at meetings in your group of 3 or group of 4. But the majority of that mark comes from your verbal feedback on the section you've had to cover for your report. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of guidance on the do's and the don'ts for presenting that report. We're going to get you to video it either in your own time or during one of the sessions and use some of the cameras that we've got in the labs. It's important that it's visible and it's a reasonable quality, but obviously we're not expecting deep broadcast quality material. But as long as it's nice and easy to read, nice and easy to see, and easy to follow what you're doing and how you're speaking, that's what we're trying to do for this section here. So where you'll find some guidance is there's a 2-page list on Sunspace on what you need to do for the verbal feedback, and also a list of your attendance at different meetings. So if we look at the checklist for your group report, I'm going to be marking it based on 6 elements. In each of those elements you'll get a mark out of 10. So between 0 and 10 for each of those elements. So the elements we're going to cover are, you might be able to see it there. First one is, does the speaker appear prepared? Do they speak clearly? Have they engaged with the client? Is it easy to understand the content of what they're saying? Is what they say broadly correct? And finally, have they made a significant contribution to the overall feedback on the report? So I'm just going to go through each of those elements one by one with an example of how you would do it well and how you would do it badly. So first one is, question is, does the speaker appear prepared? So in this one here, what I'm looking for is that the person coming in to do the presentation isn't overly flustered to begin with. They haven't started videoing halfway through the sentence, that it looks like it's being clearly presented from the start. So they haven't just snatched a 5-second video, they've thought through it and it starts properly. The second one we're looking at is, do they speak clearly? Linked to that is the third one, which is, have they engaged with the client? In your case, for the majority of people, for everyone, the client, you won't actually see a client. What you can choose, if you want to, if you find that easier, is to have someone else in the group or anybody else to act as the pretend client for you to give that feedback. If you find that that's more comfortable than giving direct feedback to the camera, go for that. As long as it's easy to video and easy to follow what you're doing, that doesn't matter. So these two are fairly closely related. So what we're looking for in that section there is eye contact with the camera or with the person you're speaking to. Also what we're looking for is trying to engage some way with your subject. What we don't want to see then is you merely reading off the topic. So if we pick an example of one of the topics from one of the students covered in the past, this is an example of what I don't want to see. And that is a very common example, which is reading directly from the text. You've already produced the group report, I can read the report. What I'm interested in is, how do you get that across to the athlete in an engaging manner? So what I really don't want to see is someone looking down at the screen and reading. When competing in a match event, most of the energy used comes from your body's carbohydrate stores. Some come from fat, some from anaerobic systems, but only a few, 1 to 5%, comes from protein. Even the leanest athlete has huge energy stores of fat. So your carbohydrate stores, which are called glycogen, are the most important aerobic energy sources during most matches and events for football players. So in that one there, I spoke relatively clearly, but I didn't engage with the camera, I didn't engage with the client. I read exactly what was from the text, so you're already going to get marks for what you've written in the text, It's how you get that across that you're going to get your marks from for the main thing itself. So that's an example of relatively clear speech. So I do reasonably okay in the second question, but I do really badly in the third, which is engaging with the client. I haven't engaged with the camera, haven't engaged with the person I'm trying to get the information across to. So to give you an example of how that could be a little bit better, for example, the same data would be to maybe not learn off, but have a really good memory for what you've written there and be able to read it off a little bit more naturally and engaging with the camera a little bit more. So I'll try and do that a little bit better. So if you're looking at most sports or most competitions, most of the energy for a lot of these will be coming from aerobic sources depending on the event. The contribution from fats, carbs and proteins varies quite a lot. If for most events proteins are only going to contribute a small percentage, maybe between 1 and 5%. Carbohydrates are going to probably produce most of the energy for the sport. So for a football player, most of your energy during a match is going to come from a mix of aerobic and anaerobic sources, mainly from carbohydrates. The contribution of fats is relatively small during something like a football match. And so most of it's coming from carbohydrates. Your body's energy stores of carbohydrates are fairly small. Your energy stores of fat are relatively high. So if we're looking at sport nutrition, your main focus should be on replacing those carbohydrates that have been lost during the exercise. So hopefully that way of trying to get the information across is a little bit more engaging, a little bit more dynamic, a little bit easier for the subject to understand and more engaging. The fourth question, which is a little bit related to the second one as well, is about the clarity of speech. How clearly are you speaking? And some of that's a difficult thing. We all find it difficult to speak in front of a camera. We all have different ways of speaking, different intonations, all these type of things. So what you need to try in that one is, one of the ways you can be better is not reading it out. Often we read it out, we'll read things out in a monotone. So we don't want to see too monotonous. It's linked to being engaging, trying to vary your tone a little bit, not simply just speaking in a monotone with your head down. Depending on age, weight, body fat, height and physical activity, your energy needs are usually variable. In most people, even those exercising regularly, the majority of your energy expended every day is resting metabolic rate, or RMR. So that's an example of how it doesn't engage. I'm speaking probably a bit too quickly for the client or the person who's watching it to be able to understand all the words that you're taking. When we're in stressful situations, which this is, very often we speak a bit too quickly. So consciously think about slowing down your speech, making it slow, making it clear, and trying not to mutter under your breath too much, trying to speak as clearly as you can in an easy to understand manner, which is what this whole report, the verbal report, is all about. Conveying the information that's in your group report, but in a more engaging manner.